I stood frozen in the doorway of my favorite bistro, watching my husband of 8 years feed chocolate cake to my best friend. Not a friendly bite between acquaintances. No, this was the intimate kind of gesture you'd see in wedding photos. His fingers lingered on her lips a moment too long, and her giggle carried across the restaurant like a knife to my gut. My name is Callie, and this is how I discovered my marriage was over. Oh my God, I heard someone whisper behind me. Isn't that his wife? I should have turned around and walked away with dignity. Instead, I walked straight to their table, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor like a countdown to destruction. They didn't notice me until I was right there, casting a shadow over their cozy little dessert date. Well, this is awkward, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Trey jumped like he'd been shocked. Callie, what are you? This isn't. Save it. I turned to Bonnie, who at least had the decency to look ashamed. 8 years of friendship, and this is how you repay me? We didn't mean for this to happen, Bonnie stammered, wiping chocolate from her lip with a trembling hand. It just did. Things just happen? Like gravity? Like weather? I picked up their wine bottle, the same expensive brand Trey always said we couldn't afford, and poured myself a glass. Fascinating. Honey, let's not make a scene, Trey said, reaching for my arm. I jerked away from his touch. A scene? You mean like the scene you two have been making behind my back? How long has this been going on? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. Callie, Bonnie started, we were going to tell you. When? After you'd finished planning whatever surprise you've got up your sleeves? I'd overheard Trey on the phone earlier that week, talking about some big announcement. Now it all made horrible sense. The restaurant had gone quiet. Every eye was on us, but I couldn't bring myself to care. 8 years of marriage, of building a life together in our dream home, reduced to this moment in a busy bistro on a random Tuesday afternoon. Actually, Trey straightened his shoulders, suddenly finding his courage. We were going to tell everyone this weekend. We're getting married. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound was hollow and sharp, like breaking glass. Married? You're not even divorced yet. The papers are being filed tomorrow, he said, as if that made everything okay. We wanted to do this right. Right? The wine glass shook in my hand. Like sleeping with my best friend while I renovated our house was right? Like lying to my face every day was right? The house. Trey's expression hardened. About that, don't. I set the glass down before I could throw it. Don't you dare talk about our house right now. Bonnie reached for my hand. We can all be adults about this. Maybe after some time. I pulled away so fast her fingers grasped air. You know what? Keep the cake. Keep the wine. Keep the man who apparently means so little to you that you'd help him cheat on his wife. But remember this moment, both of you, because karma has a way of coming full circle. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Bonnie? Remember that gorgeous Valentino dress you left at my house last month? I donated it to the thrift store. Hope that was adult enough for you. The walk home was a blur. I barely registered the concerned text from my sister Cameron or the 3 missed calls from my dad. All I could think about was how Trey and Bonnie were probably still sitting there, planning their perfect future in my perfect house. What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the house they were so eagerly plotting over wasn't Trey's achievement at all. That beautiful Victorian with its hand-carved moldings and restored hardwood floors. That was all thanks to my inheritance, carefully hidden away in a trust my mother had set up before she died. I unlocked the front door, running my hand along the wallpaper I'd specially ordered from France. Every inch of this house held pieces of my heart, my history, my future. And now they thought they could just take it? My phone buzzed again. A text from Trey. We need to talk about living arrangements. I smiled for the first time that day, thinking about the property deeds safely locked away in my father's safe. Oh, we certainly do, I whispered to the empty foyer. We certainly do. My sister Cameron burst through my front door the next morning with 2 cups of coffee and a determined look on her face. Okay, spill everything. Your texts last night were a mess. I was still in my pajamas, curled up on the window seat where I'd spent most of the night. You mean the ones with all the knife emojis? Those would be the ones. She handed me a coffee and sat down. Dad's worried sick. He wanted to come over, but I told him to give you space. I ran into Trey and Bonnie at Café Marcel yesterday, I said, taking a sip. They're getting married. They're what? Cameron nearly dropped her cup. But you and Trey aren't even divorced? Yeah, that's happening today, apparently. I showed her Trey's latest text. Meeting with lawyers at 2. Don't be difficult about this. Don't be difficult. Cameron's face flushed with anger. Who does he think he is? Before I could answer, voices drifted up from the street. Through the window, I watched Trey and Bonnie pull up in his car. They were laughing about something, and Bonnie was wearing one of her signature sundresses, probably bought with the credit card I'd helped her apply for last year. Oh, this should be good, Cameron muttered as the front door opened. Trey walked in like he owned the place, Bonnie trailing behind him. They both froze when they saw Cameron. Family meeting? Trey asked, his tone deliberately light. How nice. Just checking on my sister after you nuked her life, Cameron replied sweetly. You remember what sisters do, right? Support each other? Or did you forget that while you were sleeping with her best friend? Cameron, I warned, though secretly I was glad she was there. We're here to talk about the house, Trey said, ignoring Cameron's jab. Callie, be reasonable. This was my investment. My money built this place. I took another sip of coffee to hide my smile. Did it? Don't start, he sighed. Look, I'm willing to be generous. Take 2 weeks to find a new place. I'll even help with the security deposit. How magnanimous of you, Cameron snorted. Bonnie stepped forward, wringing her hands. Callie, I know this is hard, but Trey and I want to start our life together. This house, it means so much to us. To you? I stood up slowly. Tell me, Bonnie, which contractor did we use for the kitchen renovation? What? Or who hand-painted the ceiling medallion in the dining room? Or why we chose that specific shade of blue for the library? That's not important, Trey cut in. Actually, it is. I walked to the library doors, running my hand along the frame. Because while you were working late, or so you said, I was here, planning, designing, creating our home. With my money, Trey insisted. I heard movement by the front door and glanced over to see my father standing there, holding a familiar manila envelope. Perfect timing. Dad? Trey's confidence wavered slightly. What are you doing here? Supporting my daughter, Dad said, walking over to hand me the envelope. Like family should. What's that? Bonnie asked, eyeing the envelope. I pulled out the property deed and held it up. Just some paperwork about the house. You seem very interested in investments, Trey. Want to see something fascinating? His face paled as he scanned the document. This can't be right. Oh, but it is. I smiled, feeling stronger with every word. You see, while you were busy taking credit for our beautiful home, you never actually bothered to read the paperwork. The house was purchased through a trust, my trust, set up by my mother before she died. You're lying, he whispered. Meeting with lawyers at 2, right? I checked my watch. Perfect. We can discuss the eviction notice I'm filing against you. Bonnie grabbed Trey's arm. What is she talking about? She's bluffing, he said, but his voice shook. Am I? I walked to the front door and held it open. I guess we'll find out at 2. Don't be difficult about this, Trey. They left in stunned silence, Bonnie shooting worried glances over her shoulder. As soon as the door closed, Cameron burst out laughing. Did you see their faces? She hugged me tight. That was beautiful. Dad squeezed my shoulder. Your mother would be proud, sweetheart. She always said that house would be your sanctuary. I looked around at my home, truly mine, and felt something shift inside me. The pain was still there, but now it was mixed with something else, something like justice. So, Cameron grinned. What's next? I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Hi, Yael, it's Callie. Remember that legal advice you offered? I'm ready to take you up on it. Yael's office smelled like leather and old books, a comforting combination that reminded me of afternoons spent in my mother's study. She sat across from me, reading through the trust documents with careful attention. Your mother was brilliant, Yael said, looking up from the papers. This trust is ironclad. She thought of everything. I picked up the framed photo on Yael's desk. Mom and her at law school graduation. She always did. Tell me about the day you bought the house, Yael said, pulling out a legal pad. Every detail matters. It was 3 years ago. I set the photo down. Mom had been gone for 6 months. Trey and I were house hunting, and he was getting frustrated because nothing matched his executive lifestyle expectations. Cameron, who'd insisted on coming along, snorted from her seat by the window. You mean nothing matched his ego? Then we found the Victorian, I continued. It needed work, but it was perfect. Trey nearly walked away when he saw the price, but then I suggested using my savings for the down payment. And he never questioned where those savings came from? Yael asked. He was too excited about telling everyone he'd bought us a mansion. I laughed bitterly. I remember him at the closing, strutting around like he'd built the place himself. Yael made some notes. And the renovation money? All from the trust. I told him I'd gotten a great promotion at work, that I was handling the contractors and finances so he could focus on his career. I shook my head. He never even looked at a bank statement. A memory hit me suddenly. Mom sitting in her hospital bed holding my hand. Promise me you'll keep it secret, Callie. Men like Trey, they need to feel powerful. Let him think he's in control, but always keep your independence. Your mother knew, Yael said softly, reading my expression. She saw right through him. She saw everything. I wiped away a tear. I should have listened sooner. Cameron moved to sit beside me. You listened when it mattered. Now what's our next move? Yael spread out several documents. First, we file a response to his divorce petition, highlighting the house's ownership. Then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and raised an eyebrow. Well, this is interesting. Trey's mother, Aurora, just called my office. She wants to meet. Aurora? I hadn't spoken to my mother-in-law since the bistro incident. Why? Let's find out. Yael dialed the number and put it on speaker. Callie? Aurora's voice filled the room. Are you there? I'm here, Aurora. I need to tell you something. She sounded upset. Trey came to me yesterday, asking to borrow money. He said he needed it for legal fees, to fight you for the house. I exchanged looks with Cameron. And? I started asking questions about the house, about Bonnie, about everything. Aurora's voice hardened. He lied to me, didn't he? About how he afforded that house? Yes, I said simply. That boy. She took a shaky breath. I raised him better than this. I want to help make this right. Yael leaned forward. What kind of help are you offering, Aurora? Information about their plans and... She paused. About some business dealings Trey's been hiding, things his clients might want to know. Cameron grabbed my arm, excited. This is perfect. Why are you doing this? I had to ask. Because your mother was my friend too, Callie, and because what they're doing is wrong. Aurora's voice cracked. I've already lost one daughter when your sister-in-law cut ties with us. I don't want to lose you too. I remembered all the Sunday dinners, the holiday celebrations, the way Aurora had welcomed me into her family. Thank you, I whispered. After the call ended, Yael started revising her notes. This changes things. With Aurora's help, we can build an even stronger case. Not just for the house, Cameron added, if what she's hinting about Trey's business is true. I stood and walked to the window, watching the city below. Somewhere out there, Trey and Bonnie were probably planning their future in my house, thinking they had all the power. Callie? Yael called. What do you want to do? I turned back to them, thinking of Mom's last gift to me. Not just the house, but the strength to stand up for myself. I want everything, I said firmly. The house, the truth, all of it. They think they can just take what's mine? Let's show them how wrong they are. Yael smiled and picked up her phone. I'll clear my schedule. We have work to do. Cameron hugged me. Mom would be so proud right now. Looking at the photo of Mom and Yael one more time, I felt certain she already was. The sound of a key in the front door made me freeze in my home office. I'd changed the locks yesterday, which meant only one person could be letting themselves in. Callie? Trey's voice echoed through the house. We need to talk. I closed my laptop and took a deep breath. Right on schedule. Aurora had warned me he'd try something like this. In here, I called out, straightening the papers on my desk. He walked in like he owned the place, Bonnie trailing behind him. She was wearing one of my old scarves, probably forgotten in the guest room during one of our wine nights. The sight made my blood boil. You changed the locks, Trey said, his voice dangerously calm. My house, my locks. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. Please sit. I assume this is about the eviction notice? Bonnie perched nervously on a chair. This is ridiculous, Callie. We can work something out. Like you worked something out with my marriage? I smiled pleasantly. No, I don't think so. Look, Trey leaned forward. I've been patient, I've been reasonable, but this ends now. I built this life, this house. Did you? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder. Because these receipts tell a different story. The Italian marble in the kitchen, paid for by me. The custom woodwork in the library, also me. Should I go on? Those were joint accounts. No, they weren't. I slid a bank statement across the desk. This was all from my personal account, the one you never questioned because you were too busy taking credit for everything. Bonnie grabbed Trey's arm. What is she talking about? She's lying, he snapped, but his face had gone pale. She has to be. Your mother doesn't think so. I watched his expression change. We had a lovely chat yesterday. You talked to Aurora? Bonnie's voice went up an octave. She's very interested in the truth coming out. I stood up, walking to the window. About the house? About your relationship? About those creative accounting practices at your firm? Trey shot to his feet. You're bluffing. Am I? I turned back to face them. Ask yourself why your biggest client canceled their meeting this morning. His face went from pale to ashen. How did you know about that? Let's just say karma works in mysterious ways. I walked to the door and held it open. Now you have exactly 2 weeks to find a new place. I'd start looking if I were you. This isn't over, Trey growled, storming past me. Bonnie lingered, twisting my old scarf between her fingers. Callie, please. We used to be best friends. Used to be. I reached out and gently unwound the scarf from her neck. This looks better on me anyway. After they left, I called Cameron. It worked, just like Aurora said it would. Did he threaten you? My sister's protective instinct kicked in immediately. No, but he will. I sank into my chair. Aurora says he's meeting with his lawyer tomorrow to fight the eviction. Let him try. Cameron's smile was audible. Yael's already 3 steps ahead. Did you get the security cameras installed? This morning. I glanced at the tiny lens in the corner of the office. Everything's being recorded. Perfect. Oh, and Dad wants to know if you're coming to dinner tonight. He's making your favorite pasta. Tell him yes. I needed family right now. Real family. My phone buzzed with a text from Aurora. He's furious. Called me ranting about betrayal. You were right about everything. I texted back. Thank you for helping. I know this isn't easy. It's necessary, she replied. By the way, check your email. Just forwarded you some interesting documents from Trey's home office. I opened my laptop and clicked on the new email. What I saw made me gasp. Cameron, I said into the phone, call Yael, now. Aurora just sent proof of Trey's creative accounting, and it's worse than we thought. How much worse? Let's just say his clients aren't the only ones he's been lying to. I scanned the documents, my hands shaking. The IRS might be very interested in this. Holy shit, Cameron whispered. This isn't just about the house anymore, is it? No. I thought about Trey's smug face, about Bonnie wearing my scarf, about all the lies and betrayals. This is about justice. Dad's going to flip when he hears this. Speaking of which, I checked the time. I need to get ready for dinner. Something tells me we'll have a lot to discuss over that pasta. As I gathered my things, I caught my reflection in the window. For the first time in weeks, I was smiling, really smiling. Mom always said the truth had a way of coming out. She just never mentioned how satisfying it would be to help it along. Dad's kitchen was filled with the aroma of garlic and basil as I laid out the documents Aurora had sent. Cameron paced behind me while Dad stirred his famous marinara sauce. Tax evasion? Dad nearly dropped his wooden spoon. Are you sure? Look at these transfers. I pointed to a series of suspicious transactions. He's been moving money between accounts, underreporting income, and there's evidence of kickbacks from contractors. While claiming he paid for the house renovations, Cameron added, which we now know came from Callie's trust. Dad wiped his hands on his apron and sat down. Have you shown this to Yael? She's reviewing everything now. I picked up my phone as it buzzed. Speaking of which, Callie? Yael's voice was excited. Are you with your family? Yes, you're on speaker. Good, because they need to hear this. I just got off the phone with Aurora. Trey's planning a party next weekend. Cameron snorted. A party? Now? Not just any party. He's invited all his major clients, business partners, even some local politicians. He's planning to announce his engagement to Bonnie and Yael paused for effect. Formally claim the house as a wedding gift to her. He what? Dad's face turned red. That entitled little... Wait, I cut in. When exactly is this party? Saturday night. Aurora says he's having it catered at the house. Your house. Cameron grabbed my arm. Callie, are you thinking what I'm thinking? If you're thinking this is the perfect opportunity to expose everything, then yes. I couldn't help smiling. What better way to reveal the truth than in front of everyone who matters to him? I like where this is going, Yael said. But we need to be strategic. One wrong move and we could face legal complications. Dad stood up and returned to his sauce. You need backup. People who can verify your story. Aurora, I said immediately. She's willing to speak up, and I bet some of those contractors would talk if we approached them. Leave the contractors to me, Yael replied. I've already made some calls. 2 of them are pretty angry about Trey taking credit for their work. Cameron clapped her hands. This is perfect. But wait, how are you going to get into the party? He's not exactly going to invite you. Actually, Yael's voice took on a mischievous tone. Aurora already handled that. She insisted that Callie be invited, told Trey it would look suspicious if his soon-to-be ex-wife wasn't there to support the transition. He agreed, probably thinking you wouldn't show up. Oh, I'll show up all right. I thought about the property deed, the tax documents, the proof of my inheritance. And I'll bring receipts. Dad placed a plate of pasta in front of me. You know, your mother always said Trey would hang himself with his own rope if given enough length. Speaking of rope, Yael cut in. I just got another email from Aurora. Apparently Bonnie's been asking questions about the house's financing. She's starting to doubt Trey's stories. Good, Cameron said. Let them turn on each other. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from Bonnie. Can we talk alone, please? I showed it to Cameron, who immediately shook her head. It's a trap. Or an opportunity, Dad suggested, to see what she knows. Meet with her, Yael advised, but in public and wear that recording device I gave you. We might get something useful. I typed back, tomorrow, noon, the cafe on Main Street. Bonnie's response was immediate. Thank you, there's something you need to know. Well, Cameron grinned. Looks like the happy couple isn't so happy anymore. Dad filled everyone's wine glasses. To Karma, he said, raising his glass, and to my daughter, who's twice the person they'll ever be. To Mom, I added softly, who made sure I'd always have a home of my own. As we ate dinner and finalized our plans, I felt stronger than I had in months. Trey thought his party would be a celebration of his triumph. Instead, it would be the stage for his downfall. One more thing, Yael said before hanging up. Wear that red dress you bought for your anniversary. You know, the one Trey said was too expensive. I laughed. The one I bought with my own money? Exactly. Let's show them exactly what they're dealing with. After the call ended, Cameron helped Dad clear the dishes. You know what's funny? She said. Trey always bragged about being the smart one in your marriage. I picked up my wine glass, thinking about the party to come. Well, we're about to show everyone just how wrong he was about that, too. The cafe was quiet when Bonnie walked in. Her designer handbag clutched like a shield. She looked smaller somehow, less confident than the woman who'd been parading around my house days earlier. You came, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. You said I needed to know something. I kept my voice neutral, aware of the recording device in my jacket pocket. The waitress brought us coffee. Bonnie wrapped her hands around her cup but didn't drink. It's about Trey, about the party this weekend. The engagement celebration? I raised an eyebrow. Or the kick Callie out of her house party? Both, neither. She glanced around nervously. Things aren't what they seem. That's rich coming from you. I deserve that. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. But look at these. Trey's been lying to everyone, including me. I scanned the messages. Conversations between Trey and various business contacts, each one more damning than the last. He told me the house was his greatest achievement, Bonnie said quietly, that he'd earned every penny himself, but these numbers don't add up. They never did. I sipped my coffee. Why are you showing me this? Because... She was interrupted by her phone ringing. Trey's name flashed on the screen. She declined the call with shaking fingers. Trouble in paradise? He's different now. Tears welled in her eyes. Aggressive, controlling. Yesterday he screamed at me for asking about the mortgage papers. Funny how karma works. I couldn't help the edge in my voice. I know you hate me, she whispered. You should. But Callie, he's planning something at this party, something big. He keeps talking about making examples of people who cross him. My phone buzzed. A text from Aurora. Trey just left my house. He's unraveling. Be careful. What kind of examples? I asked Bonnie. I don't know exactly, but she jumped as the cafe door opened. Trey stormed in, his face twisted with rage. I knew it. What are you doing here? Having coffee, I said calmly. It's still a free country. Bonnie, let's go. He grabbed her arm roughly. Now. Hey, the waitress stepped forward. Take your hands off her or I'm calling the police. Trey released Bonnie but leaned over our table. You think you're so clever, don't you? Turning everyone against me? My own mother? My fiancé? You did that all by yourself. I stood up slowly. And you're making quite a scene. Several customers had their phones out recording. Trey noticed and straightened up, adjusting his tie. Saturday night, he said through clenched teeth. Everything will be settled then. Looking forward to it. I smiled sweetly. I already picked out my dress. He practically dragged Bonnie out of the cafe. Through the window, I watched him gesturing angrily as they got into his car. My phone rang. Cameron. Aurora just sent me a video. You need to see this now. On my way. I left cash for the coffee and hurried out. 20 minutes later, I sat in Yael's office watching footage from Aurora's security camera. Trey was pacing her living room, ranting. I'll show them all, he was saying. Especially Callie. Think she can humiliate me? I've got dirt on every person coming to that party. By the time I'm done, no one will dare question me again. He's planning to blackmail his own clients? Cameron looked horrified. Not just them. Yael paused the video. Aurora found a file on his laptop. He's been collecting information on everyone. Business partners, politicians, even Bonnie. That's why she came to me today. I remembered her trembling hands. She's scared of him. We all should be, Yael said grimly. Men like this are most dangerous when cornered. My phone buzzed with another text from Bonnie. I'm sorry about today, but please be careful. He's not the man I thought he was. No, I murmured. He's exactly the man my mother warned me about. So, what's our play? Cameron asked. Yael spread out some papers. We move up our timeline. The party's in 3 days. We need everything ready. The property documents, the financial records, the witness statements. And Aurora? She'll be there, Yael confirmed, along with some other surprise guests Trey won't be happy to see. I thought about his threat in the cafe, about Bonnie's fear, about all the lies finally coming to light. He wants to make an example of me? I picked up the property deed. Let's see how he likes being the cautionary tale instead. Cameron hugged me tight. 3 days. 3 days, I agreed, watching the paused video of Trey's angry face. Then everyone sees the truth. The party was in full swing when I walked into my house wearing the red dress that had once made Trey so angry. Cameron and Yael flanked me like bodyguards, each carrying folders that held our ammunition for the night. He's by the fireplace, Cameron whispered, making some kind of speech. Trey stood elevated on the hearth, champagne in hand, surrounded by the city's elite. Bonnie was at his side, wearing a forced smile and a dress that still had its price tags tucked inside. I could see them peeking out at her neck. Friends, colleagues, honored guests, Trey was saying. Tonight we celebrate new beginnings. And some endings, I announced loudly, making my way through the crowd. The room went silent. Trey's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. Callie. He recovered quickly, his smile tight. How unexpected. Is it? Your mother insisted I come. I nodded to Aurora, who stood near the stairs with 2 men I recognized as federal agents, right on schedule. Well, Trey cleared his throat. Since you're here, you can help me make our big announcement. Oh, I have an announcement of my own. I moved to the center of the room. About this house, actually, and about truth. This isn't the time, he snapped, reaching for Bonnie's hand. She pulled away. It's exactly the time. I opened the first folder. Everyone here thinks they know the story of this house, the successful businessman who built his dream home. But that's not quite accurate, is it, Trey? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw several of his business partners exchange glances. In fact, I continued, this house was bought and renovated entirely through my inheritance. Every marble tile, every wooden beam, every crystal chandelier, paid for by my mother's trust fund. She's lying, Trey sputtered, but Aurora stepped forward. No, she's not. My mother-in-law's voice rang clear. I have all the proof right here. Bank statements, contracts, everything. One of Trey's biggest clients, a developer named Marcus, pushed through the crowd. Is this true? You told me you financed this yourself. And that's not all he lied about. Yael spoke up, opening another folder. Mr. Marcus, would you like to see where your investment capital really went? Don't, Trey warned, but it was too late. The federal agents moved forward as Yael began distributing documents. Tax fraud, embezzlement, kickback schemes, all documented right here. This is ridiculous. Trey jumped down from the hearth. Bonnie, tell them. But Bonnie had moved to stand beside Aurora. I can't lie anymore, Trey. I saw the proof myself. The room erupted in chaos. Business partners demanded explanations. Political connections quickly headed for the exits. Marcus was already on his phone, presumably calling his lawyers. You planned this, Trey growled, advancing toward me. You vindictive... Step back, Cameron warned, but Trey kept coming. You think you can humiliate me in my own house? My house, I corrected, and you did this to yourself. He lunged forward, but the federal agents were faster. They caught his arms as he tried to grab me. Trey Morrison, one agent said, we have some questions about your financial records. You can't do this. He struggled against their grip. I built this. I earned this. The only thing you earned, I said quietly, was exactly what you're getting right now. Bonnie stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Callie, for everything. Save it. I turned away from her. Just get out of my house. The agents led Trey away, reading him his rights as he continued to shout threats. The party guests quickly dispersed, leaving behind half-empty glasses and shattered illusions. Well, Cameron said, picking up an abandoned champagne flute, that was dramatic. Aurora hugged me tight. Your mother would be so proud, sweetheart. She always said the truth would come out eventually. Thank you, I whispered, for helping make it happen. What happens now? Bonnie asked quietly from the doorway. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She seemed small and lost, nothing like the confident homewrecker who'd stolen my husband. Now, you leave. Start over. Maybe think about why you were willing to throw away 8 years of friendship for a man who lied to everyone in his life. She nodded, slipped off her engagement ring, and walked out without another word. Yael gathered up the documents, smiling. The DA will want to see all of this, and your house is officially safe. It always was, I said, looking around at the home my mother had made possible. He just never knew it. Cameron raised her glass. To karma. To truth, Aurora added. To Mom, I finished, feeling lighter than I had in months. And to new beginnings. Outside, I could hear police sirens fading into the distance, carrying away the man who thought he could take everything from me. Instead, he'd lost everything himself. The morning sun streamed through my library windows as I sorted through the last of Trey's belongings. Aurora had offered to handle it, but this was something I needed to do myself. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Local business leader pleads guilty to financial crimes. Below was Trey's mugshot, his face a mask of defeated arrogance. Good riddance, Cameron said, walking in with coffee. Did you see the sentencing recommendations? 5 to 7 years. I closed the box of his things. Karma really doesn't mess around. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Bonnie standing on my porch looking nervous. Want me to send her away? Cameron offered. No. I took a deep breath. I need to do this. Bonnie had lost weight, and her designer clothes had been replaced with simple jeans and a sweater. She held out a familiar box. These are yours, she said. Things I borrowed over the years and never returned. I took the box. On top was the friendship bracelet I'd given her on her 30th birthday. Why are you here, Bonnie? I sold the ring, she blurted out. Trey's engagement ring. I donated the money to the women's shelter downtown. Good for you. I also... She swallowed hard. I gave evidence to the DA about everything I knew, the fake accounts, the threats, all of it. Cameron appeared behind me. That was decent of you. Finally. I know it doesn't make up for what I did. Bonnie's eyes filled with tears. But I wanted you to know that you were right, about everything, and I'm getting therapy now. I hope it helps. I started to close the door, but she put her hand out. Wait, there's one more thing. She pulled out an envelope. Remember that business loan you helped me get? For my boutique? I'm signing the shop over to you. It's the least I can do. I looked at the envelope, then back at her. Keep it. Use it to build something honest this time. Really? Consider it my last act as your friend. I handed the box back to her, keeping only the bracelet. Good luck, Bonnie. After she left, Aurora called. The last of Trey's clients just pulled their accounts, she said, and Marcus wants to meet with you about investing in women-owned businesses. Tell him I'll think about it. I fingered the bracelet. How are you holding up? Better than expected. Actually, I'm having dinner with your father tonight. He's been very supportive through all this. Cameron's eyebrows shot up as I ended the call. Dad and Aurora? That's unexpected. Life's full of surprises. I walked to my mother's portrait above the fireplace. Speaking of which, I pressed the hidden panel she'd shown me years ago, revealing a small safe. Inside was one last envelope I hadn't opened yet. What's that? Cameron asked. Mom's final letter. She said to open it when I finally stood up for myself. The paper was thick, expensive, just like everything Mom chose. Her elegant handwriting filled the page. My dearest Callie, if you're reading this, you've finally discovered your own strength. I always knew you would. The house was never just about property or money. It was about giving you a foundation to build your life on. Your terms, your rules, your truth. I saw what Trey was long before you did, but you needed to see it yourself. That's why I set up the trust the way I did. Not to trick him, but to protect you until you were ready to protect yourself. Remember, your worth isn't in what you own or who loves you. It's in how you rise when life knocks you down. I'm so proud of you, my brave girl. All my love. Mom. Cameron wiped her eyes. She knew. She knew everything. She always did. I carefully folded the letter. Help me with something? We spent the afternoon rearranging furniture, hanging new artwork, and finally painting over the last trace of Trey's presence, the pretentious accent wall he'd insisted on in the dining room. As we worked, Aurora and Dad dropped by with dinner. Yael came later with a bottle of wine and news about the case. We sat in my newly arranged living room, laughing and sharing stories. A toast, Dad proposed, raising his glass. To new chapters. To family, Aurora added, squeezing his hand. To karma, Cameron grinned. To Mom, I said, looking at her portrait. And to the home she helped me build, in every way that matters. Outside, the sun set on my house. Truly mine now, in name and in spirit. Inside, surrounded by people who'd stood by me through everything, I finally felt the truth of Mom's words. This was never about revenge. It was about finding my own strength, my own voice, my own way forward. And I was ready for whatever came next.
My name is Isabella. I'm 34 years old and an office worker. It's a bit of a long time ago, but we have a little secret in our family. 10 years ago, I was 24 years old and lived with my husband Tyler, who was 4 years older than me, my daughter, Amelia, who was 3 years old, and my son, Kane, who was 1 year old. While I was dating Tyler, whom I met at the recommendation of a friend, I found out that I was pregnant. We decided to get married after that. Our children were growing up very cute, but I had a problem. That is, my husband Tyler treats our daughter Amelia coldly. I became pregnant with my first son soon after giving birth to Amelia, but I miscarried as soon as I found out the gender. I was filled with tremendous sadness, but fortunately I soon became pregnant with my son. When I gave birth to my son not long after, I was really relieved. My husband was also very happy about the birth of our son. His name is Kane. I still remember the look on his face when he said that, as if it were yesterday. But from then on, Tyler was obsessed with Kane and treated Amelia as if she didn't exist. Originally, Tyler didn't seem to care about Amelia when she was born, so much so that I wondered, maybe he didn't like children. And it's the same with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law lived alone about a 10-minute walk away from our house. My mother-in-law didn't seem to like me as a daughter-in-law from the beginning of our marriage. Isabella is really irritating because she doesn't clean up well and cooks poorly. Even when she's not invited, she would often come to our house and bully me like that. My mother-in-law was a nurse and always made fun of me for only working part-time. She must have been proud to have raised Tyler by herself without her husband, who died years ago. On top of that, I don't mind if it's just me, but she also bullies Amelia, who is only 3 years old. She ignores Amelia when she says hello, and she buys a mountain of toys for Kane, but not at all for Amelia. Amelia, it's unpleasant to watch you, so please go over there and don't disturb Kane, okay? Kane is cute, but Amelia is ugly, which is really disappointing. Amelia is coldly treated not only by her father, Tyler, but also by her grandmother, my mother-in-law. Even though she was a 3-year-old child, she seemed to understand that she was treated coldly, and she always turned her head down. Amelia isn't my child, she's like someone else's child. I don't think either Amelia or Isabella are part of our family. I knew that he would say that every time he stepped away from me and Amelia. I felt so sorry for Amelia that I asked Tyler to stop, but he wouldn't listen. Amelia doesn't look like me, and Kane is my first boy, so both my mom and I love him. They just say it as if it's nothing. I can't talk to anyone, but I can't talk to my parents. I spent my days complaining to my trusted friends from time to time. One day, when I was spending my time in a relaxed mood, an incident occurred. Tyler is a person who always comes home late for entertainment because he works in sales. He came home late that day, and as soon as he got home, he went straight to the bath. When I was tidying up the clothes he had taken off, I found some kind of paper in his pocket. When I opened it, it was a receipt for a motel. I couldn't stand it and went straight to the bathroom. "Hey, Tyler, what's this?" I yelled, and Tyler quickly turned pale. "What's that, and where did it come from?" "It's from your clothes pocket, and the date isn't from today." "What's going on?" At first, Tyler froze at my question. However, he quickly reopened it and yelled back. "What's the point of me cheating on you with someone, if you don't want me to deal with you?" I was stunned by Tyler's attitude. Not only does he admit that he had an affair, but he also blames me for it. When I couldn't say anything back, Tyler didn't even try to talk to me and got out of the bath and locked himself in his room. The next day was Sunday. On his days off, Tyler spends a lot of time with Kane. He's a dad who will change diapers, soothe him, and do anything. To the third parties, he would look like an ideal father. But on this day, Tyler was visibly grumpy, dragging the mess of the previous day with him. While taking care of Kane as usual, he ignores Amelia as usual, who is on the side. On top of that, just dropping a little thing would make him lash out, and it had a scary atmosphere. I'd like to ask him about what he said yesterday, but let's wait until things calm down for now. With that in mind, I was hanging out the laundry while I left the cane to Tyler. Then I heard a loud cry and I jumped up. I hurried back to the room to find Amelia crying and Tyler soothing Kane. Tyler is furious. "Hey, what's going on?" When I ask, Tyler replies with irritation. "Amelia hit Kane, so I hit her for him. She is so useless, not disciplined at all." At Tyler's words, I rushed to Amelia. Amelia's right cheek was bright red and swollen, and it was clear that he had been beaten with all his might. Poor Amelia, is what Daddy says true? When you ask Amelia, she shakes her head vigorously. "I didn't hit him, I just stroked him on the cheek." A small voice that was completely frightened. "I can't believe he's doing this to a 3-year-old. How dare you hit her with such force? Amelia is a girl. What the hell are you doing to your own child?" I yelled back at Tyler. "Whatever, she's not my child." "Here you go again. I'm always telling you not to joke about it," I retorted, but Tyler looked at me with a damned face. And he threw unbelievable words at me. "I'm not kidding, she doesn't look like me at all, and I guess she's a child you made with your cheating partner anyway." "What are you talking about? Yesterday he didn't even try to hide his affair, and today he says that I cheated on him. What on earth is this person talking about?" Just as I was thinking about this, my mother-in-law came to visit us. My mother-in-law almost always came here on Tyler's days off. When she saw the scene in the living room, she stood there with a surprised face. What's the matter? Did something happen to Kane?" Just as I was wondering if Amelia would ever be worried at such a time, Tyler ran up to my mother-in-law. "Mom, listen to me." Tyler tells the whole story to his mother. At first, my mother-in-law nodded, but when he finished speaking, she looked at me with stern eyes. "Isabella, it's your fault. Tyler is tired from working every day, but Amelia's education is bad. You're disqualified as his wife." "No way." I lost my words. "Mother-in-law, but Tyler admitted to cheating on me yesterday, and said Amelia was not his child, guessing I cheated on him. It's ridiculous." Even though I said it with emotion, my mother-in-law got even more furious. "Just 1 or 2 flirtations, what's about them? And Amelia really doesn't look like Tyler at all, and I don't think she's family." At the words of the mother-in-law, Tyler gets on. "Mom, I thought it was crazy too, and I'm sure Isabella was with a man who wasn't me. Isn't that right? Then Isabella, you're a cheating woman. Who the hell did you make her with?" My mother-in-law yells at me. I had no idea what they were talking about. Not only does he not admit to have cheated on me, but they are accusing me of cheating. There is no such stupidity. Enough, let me distance myself for a while. I said so and packed my bags with Amelia. Neither my husband nor my mother-in-law would let go of Kane, but I forcibly grabbed him and left the house. I wanted to get a divorce right now, so I headed to my parents' house. That evening, as soon as we arrived at my parents' house, both Amelia and Kane were exhausted and fell asleep. The two of them are really close siblings and they are always together when they sleep. When I told the story of the incident, my parents turned red in the face and became furious. "Oh my God, Amelia is only 3 years old, and she's been through such a terrible thing." My mother was in tears. My father opened his mouth hesitantly, even though his anger was oozing on his face. Tyler and his mother are really silly people, but it's a little weird to say, "It's not our child," so many times. That's true, but for a long time, my mother-in-law and Tyler have always said, "It's not our child," every time they abuse Amelia. But Amelia is really my child. Why on earth would they say that? For some reason, the doubts I had at that time were completely cleared up. A few months later, on Sunday, I ended up going home for the first time in a long time. Tyler and my mother-in-law would contact me and say, "What's going on with Kane?" and "Hurry up and bring Kane back." I just texted them and said, "I'm going home that day because I want to talk to you," and headed there. When I opened the front door, Tyler and my mother-in-law, who I hadn't even called, ran up to me. However, when they saw that I was alone, they seemed to get in a bad mood. "What, you're coming home by yourself? Where is Kane? What are you talking about? Are you going to apologize for your infidelity?" I managed to hold back my anger at the two people who hate me and slap me in the mouth. "I have something to talk about. Can I go to the living room?" The two reluctantly headed to the living room. Then, I held out a document to the table in front of us. "Here are divorce papers, please divorce me." My husband was not surprised by my declaration, but rather snorted and laughed. "You are divorcing me? What are you talking about? A divorce? You are just a part-time worker, you don't know how hard it is to survive out there." As if it were funny, they laughed and rolled. Tyler laughed a lot, then added as if he had an idea. "Well, you can get a divorce, but you're responsible for the divorce, because your family was ruined. Isn't it?" "That's right, you'll pay him a lot of alimony. I don't care about Amelia, but Kane's custody is ours. It's all about what they want." Suppressing my anger with reason, I said coldly, "If we divorce, custody will be mine, both Amelia and Kane. And I won't let you touch them." Then, the faces of Tyler and his mother, who had been smiling until then, suddenly turned into demon-like faces. "You're just my daughter-in-law. Don't talk as if you're so entitled. You can't raise a child if you're a part-timer, right? Give Kane to us. You had an affair and gave birth to Amelia. This cheating woman." As they shouted at me, I held out yet another document. "Amelia, she really wasn't my child after all." Saying this, Tyler and his mother-in-law quickly turned pale. I stared at my mother-in-law. "You know why this happened, don't you, mother-in-law?" I held out a DNA test. It was written that Isabella, the woman who is believed to be the mother, is not recognized as having a biological parentage relationship with the woman Amelia, who is believed to be the child. It all started with my friend's mother. My friend's mother, whom I always consulted about Tyler and my mother-in-law, happened to be a nurse for my mother-in-law's colleague. My mother-in-law and my friend's mother are nurses at the maternity hospital. At the recommendation of my mother-in-law, or rather, semi-forcibly, I gave birth at the maternity hospital where my mother-in-law worked. When I returned to my parents' house, my friend's mother said, "I have something that bothers me and I want to talk to you." What I heard there was hard to believe. When Isabella gave birth to Amelia, she had an emergency C-section, and a woman gave birth at exactly the same time as Isabella. Now that I think about it, your mother-in-law's behavior at that time was very strange. According to my friend's mother, my mother-in-law said she would put my child in the treatment room and did not come back for a long time. Strangely, she didn't come back for a long time, so when she went to look for her, she said that she was already holding a baby with a name tag. The name on the name tag was not my name. I also remembered the time of childbirth. After giving birth, my mother-in-law took the baby somewhere without letting me touch her at all. I didn't see the baby until the next day. Does that mean you may have switched them? As I asked back, I couldn't stop trembling. My mind couldn't keep up with the possibility that something so horrible is happening. It's fine if it's just my misunderstanding, but it didn't mean that the patient who had a C-section in the first place was in labor. I was so overwhelmed by that time that day that I did it. Even that instruction was pushed through by your mother-in-law. I did a DNA test at the recommendation of my friend's mother. This is the result. Amelia is not my child, it said. I feel like everything I believed in has crumbled under my feet. If so, where and whose child is she? Just as I was in despair, another piece of news arrived at the right time. With the news and the results of the DNA test, I decided to meet Tyler and my mother-in-law. Tyler, you've been with your cheating partner since before we got married, and mother-in-law, you knew about it and swapped Amelia and my child for Serena's child. I hold out yet another document to Tyler and my mother-in-law, who are pale in front of me. Dropping his eyes to the papers, Tyler gasped. The document is a report of Tyler's cheating investigation. While I was waiting for a DNA test, my mom and dad had asked to investigate Tyler's infidelity. The result was pitch black. Serena had a much deeper relationship with Tyler than I thought. Tyler was glad that I wasn't home, and he brought her into the house as if she were his wife. What surprised me was that my mother-in-law was involved without any discomfort. You had always wanted Serena and Tyler to get married for a long time, but Tyler married me and even had a child. When I spoke, my mother-in-law glared at me resentfully. If you hadn't gotten pregnant, everything would have gone as planned. According to my mother-in-law's story, the truth was like this. Serena is the daughter of my mother-in-law's best friend. Even before Tyler and I met, Tyler and Serena had a close relationship. My mother-in-law thought that the two of them would get married. However, Tyler was dating me at the same time and ended up marrying me when he found out I was pregnant. It wasn't long before we found out that Serena was also pregnant. So my mother-in-law proposed to Tyler. I don't care about Isabella's child, I really want to raise Serena and your child. Please. Tyler was surprised at first, but he couldn't refuse his mother's desperate request. Serena said, "It's a request from my mother-in-law, who is taking care of me, so it's okay." And the mother-in-law replaced the baby. In other words, Amelia is the child of Serena and Tyler. But as I was raising her, Amelia didn't look like Tyler at all, and she was getting closer to Isabella, so I did not adore her anymore. But Cain looks exactly like Tyler. For my mother-in-law and Tyler, Amelia and I gradually got in their way. So they came up with a ridiculous idea. If we said you had been cheating on me, I'd get custody of Cain, and on top of that, I'd get alimony and child support from you. So I can remarry Serena. With that in mind, he was going to kick me and Amelia out. After his long story, I breathed out deeply. I talked to my lawyer about this. Mother-in-law, what you did was a crime. I'll talk to my lawyer about how to handle it. At my word, crime, my mother-in-law's expression hardened. However, Tyler still looks at me with desperate eyes, his face pale. I'm sorry about Amelia, but leave Kane behind, he's my precious son. I don't care about myself, but about Kane, please. Tyler and his mother's faces were serious. However, my determination remains the same. I'll have custody of both of our children. Tyler, be prepared for my claim for alimony for you and your mother. With that, I got up from my seat and left the living room. I pretended I didn't hear anything as Tyler tried to hold me back. Tyler was certainly a good father to Kane. However, when I remember the horrible look on his face when he punched Amelia, I definitely can't give my children to Tyler. I made up my mind to do so. Afterwards, Tyler and his mother seemed to be planning to get custody of Kane until the last minute, but in the end they decided to give up. The reason was Tyler's domestic violence against Amelia, as well as the criminal behavior of my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law said, "I don't care about myself," so I reported it without hesitation. Sure enough, my mother-in-law immediately got fired from her workplace, and the trial is still ongoing. I thought Tyler was going to start over with Serena, but he was dumped by her as she didn't like the son of a criminal. And as a result of my mother-in-law's story spreading to the company, he was transferred from a sales position that was elite. He was transferred to a department far away that he had never heard of. On top of that, he had to pay the alimony I requested on behalf of my mother-in-law, so he was desperate for a job. As for our family, as a result of making full use of detectives and investigative companies, it turned out that my child was being raised in an orphanage. Apparently, Serena received my child instead, but she had no intention of raising her from the beginning. Despite many things, I was able to adopt her back as my child. The child, Emma, looked so much like me that even the people at the facility were surprised. Although I was only worried about whether Amelia would accept her, Amelia was overjoyed the moment she saw Emma. "I have a new sister." Saying that, I hugged Emma, and I couldn't help but cry. Emma, who was a little taller than Amelia, was also surprised, but she was relieved to soon get along with Amelia. I managed to get hired as a full-time employee at my part-time job, and with the help of my parents, I am happily raising my children while struggling. Amelia and Emma, who were so small, are now in junior high school 10 years later. Along with Kane, who has become even more energetic, the three of them still live together as slightly different siblings. Soft early summer sunlight streams into the boutique Little Angels. Inside, colorful children's clothes are neatly arranged by season. From newborn rompers to toddler dresses, every item is thoughtfully placed under Sabrina's watchful eye. Located in the Wealthy Street Historic District, the store is known among local mothers as having an expert's discerning taste. At 3 p.m., 36-year-old Sabrina Palmer was preparing to close the shop. It's almost time for her to wake up. Through the baby monitor from the nursery at the back of the store, she could hear the peaceful breathing of 1-month-old Dakota. Her big blue eyes were inherited from her mother, and she was a quiet baby who rarely cried at night. Though born 2 weeks early, she was gaining weight steadily and growing well. Every time Sabrina held those tiny hands, she felt the miracle of being blessed with this child. Walking between the merchandise shelves, Sabrina remembered opening this children's clothing store 7 years ago. Initially, inventory management was challenging, and she nearly went into the red several times. She had made mistakes in purchasing decisions, ending up with large amounts of off-season merchandise. However, word of mouth among local mothers gradually spread her reputation, and now she maintains a stable business with annual sales of $180,000. The store was what helped her get through 3 years of fertility treatments. While their savings dwindled to $50,000 due to treatment costs, working surrounded by adorable children's clothes was her emotional support. Then last year, the miracle of natural pregnancy finally happened. It was a moment that made all the struggles worthwhile. Her husband Penn brought in a stable income of $85,000 as a site supervisor at Wilson Construction. His meticulous and organized nature was highly valued at work, and his recent promotion should have been a joyous event for the family. He was an ideal husband who always made time to spend with family on holidays and devotedly supported Sabrina during her pregnancy. In their 5th year of marriage, their relationship was the envy of those around them. Their neat 2-story house in the quiet residential area of Easttown, Grand Rapids suburbs, was where they had realized their dreams. The modest yard featured a lawn that Penn tended to every holiday, and rose bushes he had planted by the entrance were blooming with early summer flowers. With 15 years left on the mortgage, the monthly payment of $1,800 wasn't light, but it was manageable for the working couple. Their annual household income exceeded $130,000, allowing them to live without financial worries. The upstairs nursery was a special space that Sabrina had lovingly created piece by piece before giving birth. Pale mint green wallpaper, a white wooden cradle, handmade mobiles. Small teddy bears and educational toys watched over the baby's growth. In the corner stood an unused rocking chair, with parenting books neatly arranged on the bookshelf beside it. They attended Grace Episcopal Church every Sunday and actively participated in church community activities. In particular, Sabrina was central to running the baby clothes recycling program. They had good relationships with their neighbors, enjoying weekend barbecues with the Reynolds couple who lived across the street. They always hosted Christmas parties where neighborhood children would gather. Such warm interactions created the richness of life in this town. "Sabrina, I'll be home early today." At 6 p.m., a message arrived from Penn. With recent overtime due to his promotion, this would be his first early return in a while. She found it slightly concerning, given that his workplace project should be reaching a crucial stage. "Thanks for your hard work. Could you stop by Meijer on your way home? I need to check Dakota's milk supply, and we're running low on diapers. Also, please get bread for tomorrow's breakfast." "Got it." A brief reply. Something felt off about her husband's manner, who usually included emojis, but Sabrina convinced herself it must just be work fatigue. While preparing to close the store, Sabrina checked tomorrow's procurement list. She needed to include shopping at Target and Walgreens in her schedule. Life with a baby was a continuous series of detailed planning. Every day she handled everything alone, from ordering merchandise to inventory management. But for her, it was a happy kind of busy. Holding Dakota, who had awakened from her nap, Sabrina looked up at the sky. The gentle evening breeze softly rustled the leaves of the plane trees lined up in front of the store. Days filled with the joy of motherhood and love for her family. She believed this peaceful daily life would continue forever. No one had noticed yet. That this peaceful twilight would be their last moment of tranquility. No one sensed the impending doom that was steadily approaching. Shortly after giving birth, subtle changes began. It started with Penn's reluctance to hold the baby. When Dakota cried, he would immediately move to another room. When it was feeding time, he would leave, citing work calls. There was no trace of the husband who had once proudly shown colleagues the ultrasound photos he kept in his wallet. Where had the husband gone who had shed tears of emotion during the delivery room birth? The baby's crying gives me headaches. Saying this, he spent more time secluded in his upstairs study. The sound of glasses clinking occasionally echoed from behind the door. Overtime suddenly increased. Even considering the busyness that came with promotion, staying past midnight became common. At first, she didn't question his explanation of a big project starting up. However, suspicious points began to pile up. His phone password was changed, and sudden work calls continued even on holidays. Wilson Construction wasn't supposed to do weekend work. She increasingly woke up to the sound of him talking to someone late at night. Her husband's voice from the living room downstairs was different from his calm daytime tone. Low, sometimes containing anger. I know. I know. I can't right now. Even if you say that. I need more time. The voice of whoever he was talking to couldn't be heard. After hanging up, the sound of ice being stirred in a glass. She had also noticed the whiskey supply was rapidly diminishing. Bottles hidden in the back of the refrigerator were replaced weekly with new ones. Checking the bank book revealed unfamiliar withdrawal histories. Late-night ATM cash withdrawals, credit card usage at unknown hotels. Charges at luxury restaurants, shopping at brand-name stores. Sabrina's instinct as an accountant was raising red flags. One day, while cleaning Penn's car, she caught the scent of women's perfume from the passenger seat. Under the seat was a receipt from a luxury brand. The date wasn't her birthday or their anniversary. Even more concerning was the bundle of receipts in the glove compartment. Motel accommodation fees, payments at late-night bars, parking fees from unfamiliar places. At a church gathering, a wife of another Wilson Construction employee gave her a meaningful look. What should have been casual conversation over coffee suddenly turned into something like a confession. Do you know about Irene? Irene? Yes, from accounting. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. The abruptly ended conversation. Irene was, if she remembered correctly, a subordinate's wife. She had heard rumors about her being young and beautiful. The decisive moment was when he canceled Dakota's one-month checkup. He had promised to go together until the day before. A meeting came up that I can't miss. Over the phone, she detected a slight influence of alcohol in his voice. At 10 a.m., no less. She thought she heard a woman's laughter in the background. Could it be Irene's voice? Her anxiety grew. At 7 p.m., the heavy rain had subsided to a drizzle. After closing the store, she carried Dakota up to the second-floor nursery. It was time for milk. A peaceful space surrounded by pale mint green wallpaper. However, tonight there was a somehow oppressive atmosphere. The sound of the front door opening. Heavy footsteps climbing the stairs. The smell of alcohol permeated the room. Those footsteps were so unsteady they seemed unlike her husband's. "Pen? Have you been drinking at this hour?" No response. Her husband surveyed the room with bloodshot eyes. His suit was wrinkled, his tie askew. His gaze fixed on Dakota in Sabrina's arms. "I trusted you." His voice, muttering while leaning against the wall, suddenly turned into a roar. The air in the room froze. "This child isn't mine." At Penn's shout, Dakota began to cry. Sabrina instinctively stood in front of the baby. Her heart pounding. "What are you saying?" "Penn, please, calm down. She's your daughter." But her husband, as if possessed, pulled out his phone with trembling hands. The screen kept going dark and being relit. "It's the DNA test results. These past 2 weeks have been driving me crazy. This is proof of your betrayal." An email from a medical institution displayed on the screen. Tears welled up in Sabrina's eyes. It was from an unfamiliar testing facility, its credibility questionable. "That's a lie. It can't be. Who put you up to this?" Penn, though staggering, quickly grabbed Sabrina's arm. His breath, mixing alcohol and madness, grazed her cheek. His eyes had lost all reason. "A year ago, when I had lots of night shifts. You were having an affair with someone, weren't you? While I was working desperately." "No. Penn, I've only ever loved you. This child is ours." That's when it happened. Her husband shook off her arm and dragged Dakota from the cradle. The tiny body was at the mercy of his rough hands. "Stop. Please, let go of Dakota." Despite her screams, Penn walked to the window. His elbow shattered the glass. The early summer evening breeze billowed the curtains. He stared at Sabrina with hollow eyes. Then, the small life was thrown into the air. "No." Without a moment's hesitation, Sabrina threw herself out the window. The maternal instinct to protect her child overcame the fear of falling from the second floor. She reached for Dakota in midair, desperately clutching the small body. She curled her own body to absorb the impact of the fall. A large pool air cushion placed in the Reynolds yard miraculously broke their fall. The brand new item that had just arrived yesterday saved the mother and child's lives. "Someone! Help!" Mrs. Reynolds' scream echoed through the quiet residential area. Sirens approached. Lights in neighboring houses turned on one after another. From the window, her husband's grinning face was visible. However, that expression didn't last more than a few seconds. As reality sank in, the blood drained from his face. As if the effects of alcohol were wearing off and he realized the gravity of his actions. What have I done?" As police sirens approached, Penn collapsed onto the floor. The few minutes of madness came to an end. A patrol car from the Grand Rapids Police Department East Precinct arrived within 5 minutes. Following it, ambulance sirens tore through the night town. Those sounds heralded the end of a broken family's story and the beginning of a new life. Room 511 at Spectrum Health Butterworth Hospital. In the white hospital room filled with the scent of disinfectant, Sabrina was being treated for a broken right leg and mild concussion. In the adjacent bed, Dakota, miraculously only slightly injured, was breathing quietly. Thanks to her mother's body absorbing the impact of the fall. "Mrs. Palmer, are you ready for the police interview?" Detective Johnson from Grand Rapids Police spoke to Sabrina in a gentle voice. As she nodded, all the truth came to light. Penn's double life. His affair with Irene had begun 2 years ago. She was a 29-year-old married woman working in accounting. A complicated relationship as she was his subordinate's wife. Trysts in luxury hotels, late-night bar meetings, secret weekend trips. His debt had swollen to $85,000, most of it vanishing into gifts for Irene and their time together. Credit card statements, hotel security camera footage, phone records. All the evidence illuminated their twisted relationship. Ironically, the DNA test that had driven Penn to the edge was forged. It was a fake test result arranged through an acquaintance of Irene's. She herself had wanted to end her relationship with Penn. However, that plan had led to an unexpected tragedy. "I watched him falling apart every day." Irene testified to the police through tears. "He was gentle at first, but as he drank more, he became violent. I couldn't take his domestic violence anymore, but I never thought it would come to this." The church community immediately began supporting Sabrina. Members of the Grace Episcopal Church women's group took turns visiting her hospital room, bringing homemade meals. The pastor set aside prayer time every Friday and promised to help with rebuilding life after discharge. The shopping district's people moved quickly too. Someone volunteered as temporary manager of Little Angels, others helped with inventory management, and some handled social media communications. The Wealthy Street Business Association, concerned about fixed costs during the closure, decided to provide 3 months of rent assistance. Everyone extended help in their own way. Kent County Victim Services dispatched specialized counselors. Regular sessions with trauma care specialists began, starting mental care for mother and child. Bridges were also built with single mother support groups, ensuring access to advice for future life planning. A local law firm offered pro bono legal support. They would help with everything from divorce proceedings, custody, property division, to legal measures for ensuring future safety. Penn's parents were also on Sabrina's side. "She is our precious granddaughter. Please let us provide child support. We'll take responsibility until Penn rehabilitates." 2 weeks after the incident, mother and child were discharged. Penn received an 8-year prison sentence with all visitation rights revoked. Though he would participate in rehabilitation programs in prison, there was no place for him to return in Sabrina and Dakota's lives. A new life was about to begin. The Reynolds couple offered their spare room, solving immediate housing concerns. Church volunteers helped with the move, and the new home was filled with warmth. In the middle of the night, Sabrina awakes and watches Dakota's sleeping face. Big blue eyes, tiny hands. An adorable profile just like her mother's. "Our future is definitely here." Even in darkness, hope shined bright. Preparations for reopening the boutique were steadily progressing. More people than before were visiting, and supportive messages on social media never ceased. Regular customers kept saying, "You're this town's treasure." "Hey, Dakota." Sabrina hugs her daughter. Soft sunlight embraces them both. "We have lots of real family here. Mama has grown stronger too." No one will ever break our bond again. Outside the window, a wind announcing the new season was blowing. It seemed to be blessing the beginning of a new story for mother and child. In the twilight hours of her apartment, Leanna sighed deeply while gazing at her engagement ring. This was the right decision, wasn't it? From the top floor of the luxurious Optima Camelview apartment complex in Phoenix's suburbs, the orange sunset streamed through the large windows, gently illuminating the final wedding preparation documents spread across her desk. The ridgeline of Camelback Mountain painted a beautiful silhouette against the dusky sky. 3 days. In just 3 days, I can begin my new life. The moment this thought crossed her mind, the anxiety she had been suppressing washed over her like small waves against her chest. The ringtone of her cell phone broke the silence. The display showed Patrick. Something troublesome must have happened again. Leanna hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello, Patrick. Sis, I need your advice." A conversation beginning in the same old way. How many times had this pattern repeated over the past decade? Since I joined Global Health Tech 15 years ago, our family's history had slowly begun to unravel. Our father, Richard, had taught biology at Scottsdale High School for 25 years and was highly respected in the community. His mild-mannered nature earned him the trust of his students. However, 10 years ago, he was forced into early retirement due to a sudden onset of depression. Since then, his emotions had become increasingly unstable, and his expectations for his son Patrick grew abnormally high. Mother had worked as a librarian at the local library but quit to care for father. Quiet and prone to avoiding reality, she had a strong tendency to blindly believe whatever her son said. Lately, she spent her days immersed in gardening, seemingly trying to escape from the family's problems. And then there was my brother Patrick. Despite his excellent high school grades, he had dropped out of community college 3 times. He would say he had big plans, only to fail again. Recently, he had become reclusive, living with our parents in their suburban house. "Did you drop out again?" "No, that's not it. This time it's a real opportunity. Sis, you've got to believe me." How many times had those words led to disappointment? Still, I found myself torn between wanting to believe in my brother and not wanting to be deceived again. I had built a successful career at Global Health Tech, becoming the youngest sales director in company history at age 32. My annual income of $180,000 was the result of maintaining a merit-based approach. In turn, I increased my support for my family, supplementing my parents' pension, covering father's medical expenses, Patrick's tuition, and the mortgage payments on the family home. Every 25th of the month, I would visit home to help manage the household finances. And invariably, the family meeting's agenda would center around my brother's future. I met my fiancé Nilsson 2 years ago at a client party. Working in pharmaceutical research and development, he understood my complex family situation and showed a supportive attitude. "Your kindness comes from your deep love for your family," he would often say. Those words gave me comfort. The wedding in 3 days at Scottsdale's luxury, the Phoenician Resort, would be a grand affair with 150 guests. We decided to cover all the expenses ourselves. I even gave my parents money for simple outfits. This was supposed to be my final financial support for the family. Outside the window, the sun was setting. Shadows gradually deepened in the apartment. I remembered Father's old shotgun I had noticed in the barn during my recent visit home, and for some reason, my chest tightened. His eyes that day had seemed vacant, carrying an unfamiliar gleam. "Sis, are you listening? This time it's definitely going to work out." Patrick's voice brought me back to reality. I could hear Father shouting something in the background, with Mother hurriedly trying to calm him down. "Patrick, what exactly happened?" Well, at that moment, my phone battery died. Before I could restart it, the doorbell began to ring. I looked back at the documents spread across my desk: the floor plan of the Phoenician Resort's banquet hall, notes from the florist meeting, and the seating chart for the guests. Everything was perfectly prepared. Throughout my life, I had always strived for perfection. Truth be told, I had initially hesitated about marrying Nilsson. I felt guilty about burdening him with my family's problems. But on the night he proposed, he said, "Leanna, your dedication to your family is proof of your inherent kindness. That's what drew me to you." Those words brought tears to my eyes. The conflict within me, love for my family and the desire for freedom. He accepted those contradicting emotions. After marriage, I planned to maintain an appropriate distance in my relationship with my family. Of course, I would continue providing essential support. But I didn't need to shoulder everything forever. That's what I learned in counseling. But would my family truly accept that? Especially Father, who had become increasingly unstable lately. At last week's family meeting, he flew into a rage over something trivial and pounded the table. Mother, as usual, fled to the garden. Later, concerned about noises from the barn, I peeked in to find Father maintaining his old shotgun. "This was passed down from your grandfather," he had said. His voice was somehow hollow, with a strange mix of nostalgia and madness. Family bonds can sometimes become a burden. The wedding officiant had said this during our meeting. Those words still resonated deeply in my heart. As my phone powered back on, unread messages began flooding in. All from Father. "Leanna, come home quickly. We need to talk about something important. Patrick's life depends on this." A dull pain, like a warning, shot through my chest. The distortion in this family might be approaching its breaking point. Just as this thought crossed my mind, the doorbell rang again, this time with an insistent, urgent tone. Through the peephole, I saw the tense expressions of my parents and Patrick. Mother's eyes appeared tearful, and Father's hands were trembling slightly. Yet there was an unfamiliar excitement in Father's eyes. When I opened the door, Father burst into the room excitedly. The entryway light illuminated his sweaty forehead. Behind him, Mother anxiously clasped her hands in front of her chest. "Leanna, we have wonderful news." Father's voice was clearly different from his usual calm tone. I invited the family into the living room. Mother perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. Patrick remained standing, staring out the window. The Phoenix night view cast a pale blue light on his profile. "What's going on at this hour?" "I have the final meeting with the wedding venue tomorrow." At Leanna's words, Father leaned forward with even more excitement. "That's not important. We have much bigger news. Richard, calm down. Mother's voice trembled. Sis, I finally made it. Patrick turned around. His eyes held a somewhat manic expectation. Leanna, your brother. Mother spoke through tears. Patrick got accepted to Harvard. Father's voice echoed through the late-night living room. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. What? Look, this is the acceptance letter. Leanna fearfully took the envelope father thrust forward. Indeed, it bore Harvard University's crest. But something seemed off. We need $200,000 for tuition, for years of living expenses, and enrollment fees. Father's voice grew even more excited. But, the wedding is in 3 days. The wedding can be postponed. Your brother's life is at stake. Father's shout made the apartment's soundproof walls shake. Mother let out a small cry. Dad, this. Leanna noticed the date on the envelope. It was clearly an old date. And the signature looked unnatural. Wait. This isn't redash. Silence. Father's roar echoed. You always get in Patrick's way. Richard. Mother screamed. At that moment, something gleamed in Father's hand. The old shotgun that should have been stored in the barn. You should sacrifice yourself for this family. The gun barrel pointed at Leanna. In that instant, the world seemed to freeze. The noise outside the window felt like it belonged to a different world. Dad, put the gun down. Leanna's voice quivered slightly. You're ruining everything. Patrick's life. Father's hands shook, making the gun barrel waver. Patrick stood frozen by the wall. Mother covered her face with both hands, sobbing. Richard, stop. Mother's anguished cry. Then the gunshot rang out. With a dull impact, sharp pain shot through Leanna's left shoulder. Blood spattered against the wall. Screams echoed. Leanna collapsed to the floor. As consciousness faded, she heard the sound of the door being kicked in and angry shouts mixing together. Don't move. Police. The last things she saw were her father's collapsing figure, Patrick's retreating back, and her mother's despairing expression. Just before consciousness slipped into darkness, Leanna wondered if this was to be her family's final image. At that moment, various scenes flashed through her memory like a kaleidoscope. The day father first talked about quitting his teaching job. The sight of mother crying alone in the kitchen. Patrick's proud smile as he gave his high school graduation speech. And the monthly family meetings. What should have been warm gatherings in the sunlit dining room, filled with hopeful conversation, had gradually become wrapped in a heavy atmosphere. Her memories stretched further back. Hiking Camelback Mountain with father as a child. His gentle smile at the summit as he wiped away sweat. Sharing mother's homemade sandwiches as a family. The warm feeling of holding newborn Patrick. Mother's whisper, "You're a big sister now." The nights she spent checking on her sleeping brother. Everything had been so happy once. When did this family begin to unravel? Who had made the wrong choices? What, after all, is family? She thought she could hear an ambulance siren wailing somewhere in the distance. As consciousness faded, she heard Nilsson's voice. Leanna. That's right, the wedding was the day after tomorrow. The day to start with a new family. But now, she saw a vision of her blood staining her pure white wedding dress red. Please, open your eyes. Nilsson's desperate voice. Before consciousness completely slipped away, the last image that floated to mind was an old photograph of the whole family. Everyone smiling, looking happy, in that one picture. In the emergency treatment room at Honor Health Scottsdale Osborne Medical Center, Leanna was receiving treatment for her left shoulder. Fortunately, the bullet had only grazed her shoulder and hadn't caused serious injury. Are you really okay? Nilsson, who had rushed to her side, asked worriedly. His eyes mixed with anger and anxiety. Yes. I just still can't believe it. Her bandaged shoulder throbbed dully. The pain seemed to confirm that everything had been real. Outside the treatment room, Scottsdale police detectives were taking statements from Mother. Father was already being questioned in another room. Patrick was nowhere to be seen. A middle-aged female detective quietly entered the treatment room. Her eyes, filled with deep sympathy, turned to Leanna. We've finished questioning your father. And we've uncovered several facts. The detective's voice resonated heavily in the room. The Harvard acceptance letter was forged. Leanna had somehow sensed it. The unnatural signature. The old date. It had all been a lie. And we've discovered something even more serious. The detective paused, sighing. Your brother Patrick has accumulated $150,000 in gambling debts over the past 6 months. Some of the creditors include local mafia members. The strength drained from Leanna's body. No way. They had begun collecting from your parents. Particularly in these past 2 weeks, the collection attempts had been persistent. Come to think of it, Father had been more unstable than usual lately. Mother, too, had been spending more time immersed in gardening. Everything started to connect. Richard, your father's psychiatric records show that in addition to severe depression, his grip on reality had been deteriorating. He hadn't been taking his medication properly for several months. The treatment room door opened, and Mother entered. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes swollen. Leanna. I'm so sorry. Mother's voice trembled slightly. We, especially me, we pretended not to see everything. Mother slowly knelt before Leanna. I knew Patrick was addicted to gambling, knew about the debts. But I didn't want to acknowledge it. I just waited, praying he would get better. Tears rolled down Mother's cheeks. I noticed your father's condition worsening too. But I believed he would return to his former gentle self. I was just a coward. Leanna silently stroked her mother's head. She felt no hatred. Only deep sadness and something akin to resignation filled her heart. The detective spoke gently. Your father will receive treatment at the state psychiatric hospital for a while. What about Patrick? Leanna asked in a faint voice. We haven't found him yet. But we have surveillance at airports and major bus terminals. He should be found soon. Just then, there was a commotion in the hallway. Sis. Patrick stood there, accompanied by a police officer. His face was ashen, with dark circles under his eyes. "I'll tell everything." His voice seemed to carry a resolve she had never heard before. Patrick slowly began speaking, running trembling hands through his hair. "It started with just poker games. Small bets at a friend's house." His voice broke off. "But trying to recover my losses, I got deeper and deeper. Online casinos, illegal gambling dens. Before I knew it, I couldn't turn back." "Why didn't you come to me?" Sadness seeped into Leanna's voice. "I didn't want to trouble you anymore, sis. I've always relied on you. This time, I thought I could handle it myself." Ironically, that determination had led to the worst outcome. "When the mafia started collecting, I was desperate. I thought I had to tell our parents, but when I did, Dad suddenly changed." Tears welled up in Patrick's eyes. "Dad started saying, if we had Leanna's wedding money, everything would be solved. I thought he was joking at first. But Dad's eyes were serious. The acceptance letter. I scanned an old admissions guide and edited it on the computer. When I showed it to Dad, he suddenly got excited." Mother let out a small sob. "Dad really believed that if we canceled your wedding, he could send me to Harvard. He stopped taking his medicine, and his condition kept getting worse." The detective quietly took notes. Nilsson held Leanna's hand tightly. "I'm responsible too," Mother said in a trembling voice. Recently, Richard would often talk to himself in the barn at night, while maintaining the shotgun, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Leanna sighed deeply. She never imagined the family bonds she had tried so hard to protect would crumble like this. "Big sis." Patrick called out to her like he used to when they were young. "I've decided to enter a rehabilitation facility." Everyone looked up at those words. "Treatment for gambling addiction, debt repayment plan. I want to start everything on my own will. I'm done running away from relying on others." Leanna quietly nodded at her brother's resolute voice, which she had never heard before. Outside the window, dawn was breaking. New morning light began streaming into the hospital room, as if heralding a new beginning for this family. The clock in the treatment room showed 5 a.m. Yes, tomorrow was Leanna's wedding day. Everything had changed in this one night. But perhaps this wasn't an ending, but rather the first step toward finding a new form of family. "Miss, your wedding dress is ready." In the bride's room at the Phoenician resort, the stylist called out. Leanna gazed intently at her reflection in the mirror. The bandage on her left shoulder was slightly visible beneath the pure white dress. Leanna had decided to proceed with the wedding as planned. "Are you sure you're okay?" Mother asked worriedly during makeup. "Yes. This is my choice." Leanna's voice was filled with quiet conviction. After the hospital incident, many things began moving rapidly. Father Richard was transferred to the state psychiatric hospital, where appropriate treatment began. The diagnosis showed he had developed temporary delusional disorder in addition to severe depression. Patrick voluntarily requested admission to the New Dawn Recovery Center, a rehabilitation facility in Scottsdale. The gambling addiction treatment program and debt repayment plan had already begun. Regarding the mafia-related debts, police intervention had secured legal debt collection agencies' agreement to accept installment payments. Mother decided to live separately, planning to rest for a while at a guest house run by her friend Leanna. A knock at the door was accompanied by Nilsson's voice. "Can I come in?" "Not yet. It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony." Leanna answered with a smile. "I understand. But there's something I want you to read." An envelope slid under the door. It was a letter from Father, now in the hospital. "Dear Leanna, as I write this letter, my mind is clear for the first time in a long while. With proper medication, I now painfully understand how madness filled my actions last night. You may never forgive me for hurting you and trying to ruin your special day. That's understandable. But please let me tell you this. You were a wonderful daughter. You sacrificed too much for our family. It's time for you to be freed from that burden. Walk proudly into your new life. That is this father's final wish. With love, Father." As she finished reading the letter, tears rolled down her cheeks, regardless of her makeup. "Sis." Patrick, who had received special permission to leave the rehabilitation facility, called from outside the door. "Would it be all right if I served as a witness at the ceremony?" "Thank you, Patrick." Leanna's voice trembled slightly. In the banquet hall, 150 guests were already seated. The air-conditioned room was filled with the fragrance of roses. "We're ready," the wedding planner announced. Leanna took a deep breath and picked up her bouquet. Her reflection in the mirror looked genuinely happy. The bandage on her left shoulder might be a symbol of the new bonds she would carry with her family throughout her life. As she began walking down the aisle, a small murmur arose from the guests. Her dress, revealing traces of bandages, might seem unusual. But that was the path she had walked. And the path she would continue to walk. After the ceremony, Mother quietly drew close to Leanna. "Be happy in your new life." "Thank you, Mom. You'll find happiness too, I'm sure." 6 months later, at Christmas. Father, responding well to medication, was showing signs of gradual recovery. Patrick was earnestly following his rehabilitation program and had started an internship at a small accounting firm. Mother had begun teaching gardening classes and was living peaceful days. And Leanna was truly enjoying life with her new family. "Hey, Nilsson." After Christmas dinner, Leanna told her husband. "Next year, there will be 3 of us." Outside the window, snow was beginning to fall unusually on the Arizona desert. Sunlight streams into a Manhattan high-rise apartment. From the 38th floor penthouse window, Central Park's greenery stretches as far as the eye can see. I'm Taylor Martinez, 35 years old. As usual, I was making an omelet in the kitchen. Always bring the eggs to room temperature first. I remind myself while carefully beating organic eggs. Moving around with my 8-month pregnant belly is a bit challenging, but I won't compromise on making the perfect breakfast for my husband, Aaron. Yesterday's eggs were too runny. My husband's sudden voice from behind makes me freeze. I'm sorry, I'll be more careful today. Aaron, dressed in the latest Corneliani suit, sits in his usual spot and opens the Wall Street Journal. As a fund manager at the investment bank, Manhattan Capital, He always starts his weekday mornings checking the newspaper and Bloomberg stock prices. Your cooking has improved over the years. That's because of my strict guidance. Looking pleased with himself, Aaron pulls out documents from his expensive black leather briefcase. I'll be late tonight. Preparing for the promotion review. I understand. You won't need dinner then. I carefully heat the pan and drop in butter, pouring in the creamy eggs. While chopping black truffles from a small Upper East Side delicatessen, I find myself reminiscing about our meeting 8 years ago. At a friend's wedding party. In the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom, he happened to sit next to me, and from the start, he was the perfect gentleman. His dining etiquette, conversation skills, and demeanor were all refined, and I was instantly captivated. However, after marriage, I realized that perfection came from a personality that was extremely demanding of both himself and others. Why are you always so absent-minded? Aaron's voice brings me back to reality. I plate the omelet, carefully arranging the asparagus and cherry tomatoes alongside it. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the baby. At those words, Aaron's expression softened slightly. I see. I'm going to be a father soon. His voice is unusually gentle. But he quickly reverts to his usual stern expression. Who's the writer you're meeting with today? John Smith. For his new book. Another man. I stand by the window, adjusting the hem of my dress from Bloomingdale's. The high-quality maternity fabric gently wraps around my skin. Following Aaron's words that appearance matters, I maintain my standards even during pregnancy. I check my smartphone calendar. Today there's an editorial meeting at 10, followed by a lunch meeting with John at noon. I've been told to choose high-end restaurants like Per Se for meetings with authors. My wife shouldn't conduct business at cheap establishments. That's another one of my husband's strict rules. While fixing my hair in front of the mirror, I reflected on Aaron's recent behavior. As the promotion review approaches, he's become increasingly harsh with his subordinates. I heard that just the other day, a new employee left the office in tears. The strong survive. The weak should leave. That was my husband's belief. Having received elite education at top schools since childhood and always being expected to be at the top, he lacks kindness and empathy towards others. The same applies to me. His cold gaze when I fail to meet his expectations for perfection still sends chills down my spine. On my way to the entrance, my eyes catch a stack of documents on the living room desk. It's unusual for my meticulous husband to forget papers. The baby moves again in my belly. Still unbelievable. A life finally granted after 3 years of fertility treatments. Aaron was happy at first, but lately, he hates using pregnancy as an excuse. Pregnancy isn't an illness has become his catchphrase. I step into the elevator and press the button. The private elevator with its fine leather scent is exclusively for penthouse residents. As usual, I smile at the security camera when getting off. The 24-hour security is another one of my husband's thorough requirements. Good morning, Mrs. Martinez. In the lobby, Michael the concierge greets me with his usual gentle smile. That's a lovely dress today. Thank you, though I think my belly's gotten a bit bigger. Only 1 month until your due date, right? How exciting. These simple conversations somehow put me at ease. These casual morning greetings with Michael are my secret pleasure. Though I keep that from my husband. Stepping outside, an early summer breeze caresses my cheeks. The Upper East Side streets are most beautiful at this hour. High-end boutique displays glisten in the morning sun, and Central Park's trees shimmer with new greenery. Just as I'm about to hail a taxi, my smartphone rings. A message from Aaron. Verify your lunch plans. Meeting alone with a man is not acceptable. A familiar suffocating message. My fingers tremble slightly as I reply. I understand. My assistant will be present. Even this lie has become routine now. When I returned home to Manhattan at dusk after the editorial meeting, the living room was still dark. This has become the norm lately. From the 38th floor window, office building lights twinkled like stars. An unread message left on my phone. Working late. Don't need dinner. I reheat dinner ordered from a Croatian restaurant alone. Even knowing it's too much strain on my 8-month pregnant body, I can't expect to dine with my husband. At 2 a.m., the front door finally opens. The unusual scent of whiskey wafts in, something he never normally drinks. You're still up. Aaron's voice carries an unfamiliar irritation. I was worried about you. Don't pry unnecessarily. Aaron pulls documents from his briefcase and heads to his desk. Though he must be tired, he apparently intends to work more. His back looks somehow like a stranger's. Give me your phone. At the sudden demand, I reflexively clutch my smartphone to my chest. Why hesitate? Do you have something to hide? No, it's just so sudden. Unable to withstand his cold gaze, I unlock the passcode and hand it over. Aaron immediately opens the messaging app and begins scrolling. He scrutinizes the message history with my assigned authors. Too many meetings. Is this really work? Of course. The deadline for the new book. What about this history? Why is it deleted? I didn't delete anything. Must be an app glitch. Such a convenient excuse. At that moment, the baby moves vigorously. Ouch. But Aaron's eyes don't leave the screen. With his promotion review next week, my husband's neurotic behavior had reached its peak. When I go to pick him up at the office, I see young employees running out in tears. All the surrounding subordinates avert their eyes. We're leaving. Aaron's voice overflows with anger. In the elevator, my husband is messaging someone. I catch a glimpse of the recipient's name, Lindsay. What are you looking at? Pierced by his sharp gaze, I hurriedly look away. At home, my husband transforms like a different person. Sudden outbursts. Excessive interference in friendships. Midnight soliloquies. They must understand my worth. You'll definitely get it. You're. Of course. No one can betray me. I'm perfect. My husband speaks to me in an unusually calm voice from the living room sofa. How's the baby? Before I can feel relieved, unexpected words follow. It is my child, right? I'm at a loss for words. What are you saying? Of course it is. Is that so, right? He stares at the night view, swirling ice in his glass with vacant eyes. Late at night, just as I'm dozing off, the sound of a desk drawer opening. Amid hurried rustling, I slightly open my eyes. Aaron frantically picking up scattered photos from a fallen envelope. Images of him with a woman. I pretend not to see and close my eyes, but my heart is racing. At breakfast, Aaron, perfectly dressed in a navy suit, unusually pauses. "Are you free tomorrow at noon?" My heart races at the sudden invitation. Yes, if I cancel the meeting with the author. I've made a reservation at Skyline. Why this special restaurant that we didn't even use for our anniversary? I have something important to tell you. Is this anxiety maternal instinct? The baby moves more vigorously than usual. Scattered documents in the living room. Late night calls. Obsession with the promotion review. A woman named Lindsay. And the photos. Everything seems connected yet disconnected. An important conversation at a restaurant with a beautiful view. Is it really an important conversation? Suddenly remembered. Last night's news. Reports of a fall from a high-rise building continued this morning. Why won't this ominous feeling go away? The next day at breakfast, Aaron was unusually quiet. Yesterday's announcement of lunch at Skyline. An important conversation. Those words won't leave my mind. Your makeup is too light. At my husband's sudden criticism, I instinctively look in the mirror. Do it again. Today is an important day. My hands tremble slightly as I redo my makeup as told. The baby moves more vigorously than usual. Aaron grooms himself with unusual care. His navy suit is perfect down to the cuffs. 12:30, don't be late. Leaving these brief words, my husband departs. The clock hands seem painfully slow. Drinking a green smoothie in our Upper East Side home, the ominous feeling just won't disappear. 11:45 a.m. I get into the arranged Uber. Congratulations on your pregnancy. The driver's voice seems distant. Looking up at the buildings while heading south on 5th Avenue. The Pinnacle Building. Summer sunlight pours through the lobby made entirely of floor-to-ceiling glass. Wind blowing through the canyon of skyscrapers rustles the hem of my white dress. 12:25 p.m. Perfect timing. Reservation for Aaron Martinez. This way, please. 38th floor. Terrace seating with a panoramic view of New York City. Strong wind strikes my cheeks. It feels like floating in midair. Far below, people move like ants, and the Hudson River gleams silver. Sorry to keep you waiting. Turning to the voice behind me. It's my usual husband, yet somehow like a stranger. Shall I bring some wine? My wife is pregnant. Water is fine. Aaron's voice echoes hollowly. My husband sits silently. Today, when he should be waiting for the promotion review results. But his expression is different. Some other emotion seems to be swirling. The result. I break the silence. No response. My husband walks slowly to the terrace railing and looks down at Manhattan. I know everything. His eyes when he turns around held a madness I'd never seen before. Your betrayal too. Betrayal? What are you? Shut up. Aaron's shout disappears on the wind. His knuckles turn white, gripping the railing. I have proof. Aaron takes out his smartphone. Your relationship with the writer. Evidence of secret meetings. My husband shows me photo after photo with trembling hands. That's wrong. Those were work. At that moment, the baby moved strongly inside me. As I clutch my belly with both hands, Aaron takes a step closer. In the bright sunlight, my husband's expression twists. That child isn't mine. The cold railing touches my back as I step backward. 38th floor. Neither people's voices nor car horns reach this height. Please, think about the baby. A desperate cry. Trembling hands grasp the railing. Aaron's mouth twists into an eerie smirk. I did think about how to erase the evidence of your betrayal. You'll regret this. A final warning. But my husband's eyes had already lost their reason. Large hands reach toward me. 38th floor. Dress dancing in the wind. Aaron's figure growing distant. And a sensation of time stopping. Strangely calm while falling. I'm sorry. Speaking to the baby in my belly. But I'll definitely protect you. Manhattan skyscrapers slowly fill my vision. The Hudson River's gleam was dazzling. Sudden impact. But not the pain I expected. When I opened my eyes, I was on a window washing gondola. The sound of security guards rushing over. Someone calling an ambulance. She's alive. Get an ambulance. Quickly. She's pregnant. Various voices in confusion. The terrace was already sealed off, with restaurant guests watching through the windows. Aaron was gone. The time until the paramedics arrived felt abnormally long. When I close my eyes, the scene of falling returns. In my last consciousness, the baby moved slightly. Thank you. We are alive. When I woke up in the hospital room at dusk, the monitor was steadily recording heartbeats. Police were watching outside the room. The baby is safe. At the doctor's words, tears of relief finally flowed. Outside the window, Manhattan's sunset reflected off the skyscrapers, making the whole city appear to be burning. In the special room at Columbia University Medical Center, only the monitor's heartbeat rhythm echoed in the quiet room. At dusk, 4 hours had passed since the incident. The baby's condition is stable. Relief tears flow at the doctor's words. A fall from the 38th floor. The window washing gondola saved our lives. Meanwhile, at Manhattan Capitol's office. After the incident, Aaron returned to the office in a panic and confronted Lindsay, who was waiting there. What have you done? Lindsay approaches, crying. Why did you? Shut up. What do you know? It's my fault, I ruined everything. In the high-rise executive office. Lindsay collapses onto the blue velvet sofa. Through the window, the Pinnacle building where the incident occurred is visible. What do you mean? I was pregnant too. With your child. The blood drains from Aaron's face. But I miscarried. I conceived on the same day as your wife. Lindsay's voice trembles. While your wife's pregnancy was going well. I couldn't bear it. You, don't tell me. The photos with the writer, I took them. Making it look like secret meetings. Heavy silence envelopes the two in the luxury office. Aaron drops his whiskey glass. I liked you, but your wife seemed so happy, the baby was healthy. The photos, all of them were your doing. Yes. Edited to suggest an affair. My child. When I saw the news of the incident, I nearly went mad. Lindsay broke down crying. I never thought you would act like that. Aaron takes out his phone with trembling hands. Taylor's number. Wait. What is it? I want to apologize too. I'll tell everything. To the police too. At that moment, Aaron's phone rang. It was the hospital. Mrs. Martinez has regained consciousness. Aaron stares at Lindsay. You'll tell them about our relationship too. Yes, because of me, to your wife, your child. Then, let me ask one last thing. What? Were you really carrying my child? Lindsay silently holds out her smartphone. Hospital diagnosis. Records showing miscarriage. Photos of Taylor's pregnancy test from the same date. To take revenge like this. Lindsay's tears fall on the luxury carpet. Standing by the office window, looking down at twilight Manhattan, Aaron clutched his phone. Taylor, you're alive. Yes. The baby too. Safe. His voice trembles. I understand everything now. Lindsay told me. Lindsay? Yes, my mistress. The air freezes in the luxury office. Lindsay stood frozen near the door. It's unforgivable. But suspecting you was entirely my sin. I was about to be crushed by pressure after missing the promotion. Lindsay took advantage of my weakness. But that's no excuse. The photos were all taken by Lindsay. Following you and the writers' meetings. In the corner of the office, Lindsay shrinks away. Outside the window, Manhattan skyscrapers were dyed in sunset colors. Was she pregnant too? Yes, but she miscarried. So that's why, to me. No. Aaron's voice grows stronger. Pushing you was my madness. No one else is to blame. I'm going to the police now. I see. Make sure to rehabilitate yourself. The phone call ends and heavy silence falls in the office. Let's go, Lindsay says quietly. I'll tell the police everything. About the affair, the photos, everything. The two leave the top floor office. Police officers were already in the hallway. 3 weeks after the incident, labor pains began earlier than expected. The baby's heartbeat is stable. The doctor's voice sounds distant. With each contraction, memories of that day return. The fall from the 38th floor. My husband's mad eyes. And my instinctive reaction to protect the baby. When the first cry echoed, dawn was just breaking outside the window. A 7-pound boy. This tiny life trembles in my arms. Congratulations. This is truly a miraculous birth. At Dr. Brown's words, tears finally flow. Mrs. Martinez. The nurse lowers her voice. A letter from your husband. I won't accept it. I answer immediately. I refuse all visits and letters. Meetings with the lawyer began the day after giving birth. Please proceed with the divorce immediately. I quietly stated from my hospital bed. I don't need any child support. Meetings with the prosecutor continue as well. The trial began after the new year. In the solemn courtroom of Manhattan District Court. The defendant, Aaron Martinez, is hereby charged with attempted murder and harm to an unborn child. The prosecution seeks a sentence of 12 years imprisonment. Aaron in the defendant's cage. No trace remains of the once arrogant investment banker. Taylor. Without looking at him, I continued my testimony. The control and restraint. The obsession with perfection. And the violence disguised as twisted love. The defendant is sentenced to 10 years in prison. With the verdict, the divorce was also finalized. Lindsay received her sentence too. The defendant is sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, suspended for 4 years. As I was leaving the courtroom, she approached me desperately. Please forgive me. But I passed by in silence. I sold the Upper East Side high-rise apartment and moved to an old brownstone in Greenwich Village. A new life began. Mama, where's Papa? I had already decided how to answer that question when my son would eventually ask. We don't have a Papa. No lies. But no truth either. That's the only way to protect my son. The monthly letters from my husband are stored unopened in a box. For the day when my son might want to know the truth. For now, I need time to heal this wounded heart. At the publishing house, I was promoted to senior editor and launched a new project themed Rebirth. It's about stories of domestic violence survivors. I tell the editor-in-chief while presenting the proposal. From controlled women to independent ones. In my new Greenwich Village community, I was warmly welcomed as a single mother. Let's live strong. Meetings at the support group became a new source of hope. My son's first birthday. Happy birthday, you're my everything. The candle flickers atop a small cupcake. Letters from prison still arrive monthly. Today too, they go unopened into the box. Forgiveness is still far away. Lindsay's letters of atonement go in the same box. Their apologies cannot heal this heart's wounds. The publishing project, Rebirth, gained national attention. Powerful testimonies from women liberated from control. Through these interviews, I too gradually gained the courage to look forward. Meeting with a new author. Forgiveness isn't always necessary. I nod deeply at her words. What matters is reclaiming yourself. Life on the Upper East Side now seems like a distant dream. The perfect demanded breakfasts. Strict discipline. And the cage called controlling love. Now we have freedom. My son grows healthy with just his mother's love. His smile is my everything. I also established a fund for women suffering in controlling relationships. You are not alone. That's my message. Outside the window, spring sunlight sparkles. My son laughs innocently in the sunlight. Forgiveness is still not in sight. But that's okay. Now we have hope in rebirth. The old streets of Greenwich Village. New life. And regained freedom. All of these are testimony to our new life.
A gentle spring morning cast its light over the upscale residential area around State Street in Santa Barbara. Linda Carter, 35, was hurriedly preparing breakfast as usual. As an art director at the advertising agency, Creative Works, she had another important meeting ahead today. Alex. Pancakes are ready. The sound of footsteps thundered down the stairs in response to her call from the kitchen. A 6-year-old boy with sparkling brown eyes appeared like a small tornado. The rookie baseball player of the Little Eagles was full of energy this morning too. "Mom, can I have lots of honey on my pancakes today? I worked really hard at practice yesterday." "Oh, always wanting sweets," Linda smiled gently while patting her son's head. "If you want to be a baseball player, you need a balanced diet, right? Here, drink your fruit smoothie too." Patricia was already seated at the breakfast table. The former high school teacher and mother-in-law was sipping coffee while reading the newspaper. Beside her, Walter, the retired architect, smiled warmly at his grandson. Linda's marriage to Michael, whom she met at an advertising industry conference 8 years ago, ended sooner than expected. Alex was born a year after their marriage, and for financial reasons, they began living with his parents. However, the gap between Linda and her work-absorbed husband gradually widened, and their lack of communication and differing values became irreparable. She continued living with her ex-husband's parents even after the divorce, for Alex's sake. There was also the practical reality of Santa Barbara's high cost of living. On weekdays, Linda would take Alex to school in the morning, while Patricia would look after him after school. In the evenings, Linda would return from work, and they would spend family time together. Weekends were spent watching baseball games at Municipal Ballpark and taking walks around Stearns Wharf. "Linda, are you going to be late again today?" Patricia looked up from her newspaper. Her tone carried a hint of criticism. "Yes, I have a presentation for a new client. But I'll definitely be home before dinner." Though her mother-in-law appeared cooperative on the surface, Linda often sensed subtle criticism in her words. This tendency had grown stronger since her ex-husband's second marriage 2 years ago. Diana, her ex-husband's current wife, was a former nurse who was now a full-time housewife. She kept her fertility treatments secret from others. While she played the role of the perfect stepmother outwardly, Linda occasionally felt uneasy about the way she looked at Alex. "Hey Mom," Alex said, maple syrup around his mouth. "This Saturday, I'm going to the amusement park with Dad and Aunt Diana. Want to come too?" Linda smiled while wiping her son's mouth. "I'm sorry, sweetie. Mom has to work. Have fun with Dad and Diana." But beneath that smile, an unsettling feeling stirred. She had been bothered by something Alex had mumbled recently. "Sometimes Aunt Diana scares me." At the time, she had brushed it off, thinking he was just tired. But now, looking back, perhaps it had been a warning sign. Lately, she felt the atmosphere in the house was gradually changing. Patricia's attitude had become noticeably more awkward. After finishing their morning routine, Linda dropped Alex off at Roosevelt Elementary School. As the bells of Mission Santa Barbara rang, she watched her son wave energetically and run off. A few days later, this peaceful daily life would be dramatically shaken in unexpected ways. With 3 days until an important presentation in Los Angeles, Linda was working late into the night in her home office, wrestling with documents. This was a project that would determine the annual contract with their major client, Pacific Brands. However, every time she tried to concentrate on work, an unsettling feeling would well up inside her. "I'll be away for 3 days starting tomorrow," Linda gently explained while tucking Alex into bed after dinner. "Mom, you'll come back, right?" Her heart tightened at his anxious voice. "Of course. Grandma Patricia will take care of you. And Aunt Diana said she'll help too." The moment he heard those words, Alex's expression clouded over. "Aunt Diana? What's wrong?" "Nothing." The next morning, as Linda was preparing to leave, Patricia appeared in the kitchen unusually early. "Don't worry, Linda. We'll look after Alex." There was a certain tension in her voice. "Yes, please do." A message from Diana lay on the kitchen table. "I'll be happy to help. Please leave Alex to me." Before departing, Alex hugged Linda more tightly than usual. "Mom, come back soon. I promise. I'll definitely be back in 3 days." As she drove south on State Street, Linda kept glancing at her house in the rearview mirror. The bells of Mission Santa Barbara rang with a somehow melancholic tone. The fateful phone call came on the evening of the second day of her presentation. "Ms. Carter, this is the Santa Barbara Police Department." Linda's cell phone rang just as she left the conference room. "Yes, this is Linda Carter. We're calling about your son Alex." In that moment, the blood drained from Linda's face. "We received a report that your son has been missing since 5 p.m. yesterday." Presentation materials scattered across the floor. The voices around her grew distant. "I'm coming back right away." 3 hours later, Linda arrived home. Several police cars were already parked at the entrance. In the living room, which had been designated as the investigation headquarters, Patricia was explaining the situation to the police. "I definitely saw him playing in the garden until around 5 p.m. And after that, when I went to call him for dinner, he was gone." Diana had also rushed over. In stark contrast to her usual composed demeanor, she seemed excessively distraught. "I should have come. I should have helped Patricia." Her voice seemed somehow theatrical. "They check security camera footage. Begin neighborhood inquiries. Start the search. But Alex is nowhere to be found." And 3 days after his disappearance, in the early morning, the sound of waves washing up on East Beach rang out like an overture announcing a decisive discovery. Under cloudy skies, a chilly sea breeze swept across the beach. Seagulls cried ominously overhead. What awaited Linda, who had rushed there after receiving a police call, was a blue sports bag half buried in the sand. It belonged to Alex. "Miss Carter." A detective approached with a grave expression. "We found your son's bag. However, what is it? Did something happen to my son?" Linda's voice trembled. The detective continued, carefully choosing his words. "From the contents of the bag, we believe this is neither an accident nor a simple disappearance. At that moment, large tears spilled from Linda's eyes. "Please, find Alex." Sitting on a nearby bench, Linda suddenly realized something. The bag's position seemed unnatural, as if someone had deliberately placed it there. And inside the bag were items that Alex would never have prepared on his own. In the morning mist, the bells of Mission Santa Barbara struck 7. It was like a dark omen, signaling that this case was more than just a disappearance. Linda's phone vibrated. The sender was Deanna. The moment she opened it, the blood drained from her face. As the contents of the bag found on East Beach became clear, the investigation began to take a new turn. "This is definitely someone's doing," said the assistant inspector, examining each piece of evidence. "Everything found in the bag is items that a 6-year-old child wouldn't prepare on their own." Linda's hands trembled as she reviewed the evidence list. New children's clothing, flight reservation tickets to Cancun, Mexico, a large amount of cash, new passport photos. These were prepared methodically by someone, the assistant inspector continued. Especially the flight reservation. The fact that it's to Cancun suggests international flight. Linda's voice shook. At the Santa Barbara Police Station headquarters, new facts were coming to light one after another. Security cameras had captured a suspicious vehicle lurking near Alex's school route on the day of his disappearance. A dark SUV. Though the license plate wasn't visible, its distinctive scratch marks seemed familiar somehow. "Linda." It was Michael who called out. He had returned, interrupting his business trip to Seattle. "That car, isn't it Diana's?" The air in the investigation room froze at those words. Meanwhile, Diana's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. She repeatedly posted, "Please let my sweet son be found," on social media every hour, and in the local mothers group, she loudly proclaimed, "I will protect him as his second mother." Her actions were viewed by investigators as signs of unnatural interest. "Miss Carter." A young female detective approached. "When we investigated Diana's past, we found some concerning information. Hospital records. Failed fertility treatments. History of psychiatric visits. And a record of being questioned as a suspect in an attempted infant abduction case at her previous workplace. However, she was not prosecuted due to insufficient evidence." "Why such important information?" Michael's face turned pale. "I knew nothing. Neither about my wife's background nor her fertility treatments." As Mission Santa Barbara's evening bells rang, Patricia was called to the police station again. This time, it wasn't a voluntary interview. "Mrs. Carter." The assistant inspector began calmly. "There are serious contradictions in your testimony. Surveillance camera footage. Convenience store receipts. Mobile phone location data. All evidence contradicted Patricia's testimony." Patricia's hands began to shake. "Deanna asked me to." Her tearful confession began. 2 weeks ago, when Diana visited. "I can't have children. I desperately want Alex. I want to start a new life. If you help me, I'll reward you generously." And the plan became clear. Using Linda's business trip. Luring Alex away. Placing the bag on the beach to make it look like an accident. The escape plan to Mexico. Patricia's confession revealed shocking facts. Just then, an emergency call came into the police station. Deanna's vehicle has been spotted in the rental villa district on the outskirts of Santa Barbara. The investigation headquarters erupted in commotion. Linda stood up. "I'm going too. It's dangerous. But he's my..." At that moment, the assistant inspector's radio crackled. "Emergency directive. Suspect Diana has begun moving by car with Alex. Direction south, toward Mexico." The blood drained from Linda's face. Alex. The situation was about to enter a new phase. Police sirens echoed through the Santa Barbara night sky. A line of police vehicles raced south from State Street onto Highway 101. In one of them, Linda sat trembling. "Miss Carter." The assistant inspector turned around from the front seat. According to GPS location data, the suspect's vehicle is about 20 miles ahead. "We'll definitely catch up before they reach the border." Linda nodded silently. Her reflection in the car window looked ghostly pale. Latest information. The radio crackled. Visual confirmation of suspect's vehicle at Santa Barbara County line. Speed within limit. Child seat visible in passenger seat. Childlike figure in back seat. At that moment, Linda's phone vibrated. From Diana. "This is fate. I need Alex. He's meant to be my son. Keep the connection active." The assistant inspector directed. "It will help us track their location." Patricia's questioning continued at the police station. "That day when Diana came, I should have noticed the abnormality in her eyes. She kept repeating, 'Alex is my child.' But for Michael's new life, I turned a blind eye." Meanwhile, Michael sat in another room, head in his hands. "Why didn't I notice? I was so focused on work, I wasn't watching my family." "Linda, Alex. I'm truly sorry." Mission Santa Barbara's midnight bells rang with an ominous sound. Suddenly, the radio became busy. "Suspect vehicle entering gas station before Santa Barbara County line. This is our last chance." The assistant inspector gave instructions. "All vehicles, stop sirens. Approach silently." The gas station came into view. Fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow in the darkness of night. Deanna's black SUV was stopped in front of the pump. Linda's heart pounded. Then, the SUV's passenger door opened. "Alex." A small figure appeared from behind the gas pump. "Don't move. Diana Carter. Surrender." But Diana's expression was unnaturally calm. "We're going to be a family. No one will stop us." Something gleamed in her hand. At that moment, Alex shouted, "Mom!" Linda broke free from the police restraint and ran out from behind the gas pump. "Alex! Come here." A moment when time seemed to stop. Deanna's hand trembled. Alex started running. Police officers held their breath. "No! He's my child!" Deanna screamed. But her voice no longer reached Alex's ears. Mother and child embrace. Tears. A sigh of relief. And Diana's collapse. Why can't I have children? She collapsed on the spot. What fell from her hand was a toy gun. Before dawn, Mission Santa Barbara's bells announced a new morning. In the police station interrogation room, Diana's confession continued. 6 years ago, I was pregnant but lost my uterus in a car accident. I couldn't tell Michael. Every time I saw Alex, I felt like he was my child. In another room, Patricia bowed deeply to Linda. I know it's unforgivable. But for my son's new life. Linda answered quietly. It will take time. But Alex needs his grandparents' love too. Let's rebuild trust slowly. Michael also began to speak his true feelings for the first time. I was a workaholic and lost sight of my family. From now on, I want to properly face Alex. Linda, I realize now how strong you are. And 1 week later, at Roosevelt Elementary School's gate, Linda held Alex's hand tightly. Mom, it's okay, Alex said with a smile. I'm not scared anymore. The morning sun rose from the eastern sky. Mission Santa Barbara's bells rang with a gentle sound. A new morning. A new beginning. And stronger family bonds. Linda looked up at the sky. The darkness had passed, and light was streaming in. Have a good day. See you later. Alex energetically passed through the school gates. Linda waved slightly at his retreating figure. This time, she wouldn't let anyone take away this daily life. Linda made that vow. Mission Santa Barbara's bells rang once more. It was a sound announcing the beginning of a new chapter. One summer day, a year later, Linda and Patricia sat facing each other at a cafe on State Street. Alex's baseball has improved, hasn't it? Yes. Michael has been attending practice every week. Time heals, and wounds gradually close. At Stearns Wharf, Alex was enjoying fishing with Walter. Michael watched from a distance. Though the family's form had changed, their bonds had deepened. Diana continued treatment at a facility. Someday, I want to ask for forgiveness. Her letter said. As evening fell, Mission Santa Barbara's bells rang. The gentle sound enveloped the entire town. It was an ending, and also a new beginning. The sun set in the Santa Barbara sky. Tomorrow, too, the bells would ring again.